like super nervous to talk about this story. I'm scared that I'm going to get like hate for it, but that's not my intentions with this story at all. But okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another Ghost and Glam haunted story. So, if you are new here, every Monday and Friday I sit down and I tell a haunted, creepy, out of the ordinary, sometimes a true crime story while I get glam at the same time. So if you're into that sort of vibe, then hit that subscribe button down below and join the spooky fam. Today's story is more of a conspiracy theory. Before we get started into this story, I just want to put it out there that this is just a theory. In no way do I mean any disrespect to these people or to their families at all, not by any means. So I'm trying to do this video as respectful as I can because there's no need to be hateful about it. These people have gotten called cowards. People have attacked their families. Like, it's complete crap. I just want to say that if you have a family member that commits suicide or somebody close to you has committed suicide, just know that they were not cowards. They did not take the cowardly way out. Unless you've been in a deep, dark depression like that, then you don't know what it feels like. I've been in a depression like that, and it's not a good place. People just think, oh, they're being selfish. All they're caring about is themselves, and that's not even true. When you're in that place, all you can think about is your family and the people around you. How better off they would be if you weren't there. That's what goes through your mind. So for anyone out there who is calling people that commit suicide cowards, you need a reality check, because that's not it at all. So with that being said, sorry, I had to get a little stern there for a minute just because it just pisses me off so bad. But anyways, moving on. Today we are talking about the deaths of Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell. I'm going to do one at a time, and then at the end I'm going to talk about them both together. So let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. So if you don't know who Chester Bennington is, you're living under a rock. He's the lead singer of Linkin Park, and he was one of the greatest rock vocalists of his generation. He had some serious talent. So if you don't know who he is, you need to educate yourself with some Linkin Park, okay? So even starting from a young age, Chester showed interest in music pretty early on in life. And one of his biggest dreams was to actually become a member of the Stone Temple Pilots, which if you know and you follow Linkin Park and Chester Bennington, you would know that he actually was the lead vocalist for the Stone Temple Pilots for 2 years. So he did it, he lived his dream. But before all the fame and before Linkin Park, Chester didn't really have the easiest childhood growing up. His mother was a nurse and his father was a police detective, and his main focus was child sexual abuse cases, which is actually a little bit ironic because when Chester was only 7 years old, he was getting sexually abused by an older male friend of his. And what's sad is he was too afraid to speak out about it. He was too afraid to tell anyone because he feared that people would think he was lying or that he was gay, which is just nonsense. If you're being sexually abused, go tell somebody. But I understand it because the victim often feels like it's their fault when things like that happen. It's totally not. If this has happened to you, go seek help. The abuse would continue until Chester was 13 years old. And this is when he finally revealed to his father who his abuser was. But he ended up not pursuing it any further because he found out that his abuser was actually being abused or had been abused before. He had his own reasons for not wanting to pursue a lawsuit against this guy. So between the years of him being sexually abused, his parents were actually going through a divorce when he was 11 years old. And Chester just started feeling the weight of everything. The abuse, his parents. He was also getting bullied at school a lot. He said that he was actually thrown around like a rag doll because he was so skinny when he was a child, and he just looked different. So kids were just kids, rude little hooligans, and they bullied him a lot. So he would find his own ways to cope with this, and some of those ways would be drawing, writing songs, writing poetry, just doing whatever he could to get his mind off everything. His father was the one that gained custody of him, and this is when Chester's drug and alcohol abuse would start. He just started to feel the weight of everything just coming down on him, and so he decided to turn to drugs and alcohol to cope. And sadly, this would follow him into his adult life. For most of his adult life, he battled with addiction for years. He suffered from depression, heavy addiction, you name it, he was going through it. It's really, really sad. In 2011, though, he stated that he quit drinking. He also quit doing drugs, and he said that he just didn't want to be that person anymore. But sadly, he did battle alcohol addiction later on, but then he ended up getting clean from alcohol when his band members did an intervention for him. But sadly, around 9 a.m. on July 20th, 2017, Chester was found in his home by his housekeeper from suicide by hanging.
Bennington was found dead in a home near Los Angeles Thursday morning. Authorities say it may have been suicide. Bennington is survived by his wife and 6 children. And this comes only months after Soundgarden's Chris Cornell, a close friend of Bennington's, committed suicide. Fans and friends of the singer have been filling the internet with tributes. His bandmate, Mike Shinoda, was one of the first to tweet, saying, "Shocked and heartbroken, but it's true." The band One Republic tweeted, "Oh dear God, massive RIP to Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park. This breaks our heart. Suicide is the devil on earth walking amongst us." Another band, Smash Mouth, tweeted, "RIP Chester, one of the biggest talents in the history of music. Thoughts and prayers to the people closest to him." And this from talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. "Chester was one of the kindest men I've had on my show. My heart breaks for his family and friends. He will be missed terribly."
The following day, the chief of operations confirmed that a half-empty bottle of alcohol was found at the scene, but there were no drugs present. He ended up committing suicide on what would have been Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. Now, who is Chris Cornell? Again, if you don't know who Chris Cornell is, you're living under a rock. He's the lead singer of Soundgarden. He sings Black Hole Sun. It's one of my favorite songs. I love it so, so much. Such a good song. So Chris and Chester were kind of like really, really similar growing up. Chris ended up finding his love for rock music when he discovered like a huge collection of Beatles records in his neighbor's basement. He also suffered from severe anxiety and depression at a young age, so his coping mechanism was music as well. Chris grew up with a religious family, and like Chester's parents, Chris's parents also divorced when he was young too. He went to a Catholic school, but his mom ended up pulling him and his siblings out after learning that the school was actually going to expel them because they were speaking out too much. You know, they wanted to know why things were the way they are. So they would just ask questions about the Bible, and when they didn't really get an answer, you know, they would question it. Like, well, then how do you know this is what's happening? They were just very opinionated, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to have questions. But the school didn't like it. So they were threatening to expel the kids. So the mom was like, screw that, I'll take them out of this stupid school before you have any power to do that. Like, good job, Mom. Chris would describe himself as not really like fitting in with the rest of the kids and just kind of being a loner. And by the age of 12, so young, this is when he started to abuse drugs and alcohol until he was 15. And when he turned 15, this is when he fully put his interest into music and started using that more as a coping mechanism than the drugs and alcohol. His mother actually bought him his first snare drum, and he said that she actually saved his life that day when she did that because she started the path to him being this famous, huge rock star, you know? She gave him the tools that he needed and he just went for it. But as he grew older, the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse followed him into his adult life, same as Chester. But in 2002, he checked himself into a rehab center and he got himself clean. In 2004, he married his wife, Vicky, and they started a foundation to help the homeless, to help the poor, to help abused and neglected children. Like, they were really good people. But on May 18th, 2017, Chris was found by his bodyguard in his hotel room, laying on the floor from suicide by hanging.
The music industry is in mourning after the shocking death of Chris Cornell, the iconic rocker who fronted Soundgarden and Audioslave. The Grammy winner died overnight at the age of 52, and there are reports he may have taken his own life.
There were no drugs or alcohol found in his system during the toxicology report. The only thing that was found in his system were prescribed medications. He was on an anti-anxiety med called Ativan, which is used to relieve anxiety, but if you're taking it in an abusive way, it can lead to suicidal thoughts. It can lead to bad coordination. Your judgment is severely impaired, but he didn't seem to have a high amount of that medication in his system. Around 11:30 that night, Chris called his bodyguard and told him that his TV in his hotel room wasn't working. So his bodyguard went there with someone from the hotel to help him fix it. Well, when the bodyguard got there at 11:35, Chris was on the phone with his wife, Vicky. And during that phone call, she had stated that Chris just didn't sound right. He just seemed really, really off. He just wasn't being himself. And when she asked Chris what was wrong with him, he just said that he was tired and then hung up the phone. So Vicky ended up calling his bodyguard and told him, hey, you need to go to Chris's room right now. Something's not right. He sounded off. So the bodyguard went up there and the latch on the hotel room door was shut. So he couldn't get in, So he went down to security from the hotel and asked if they could possibly let him into the room, and security refused. They would not open this door for the bodyguard. Why not? If you're worried about somebody, they should open that door. Well, Vicky told the bodyguard, I don't care what you have to do, you get in that room, kick the damn door down. So he did, and that's when the bodyguard found Chris laying on the floor from the bathroom. He said that he saw his feet sticking out of the bathroom door. His wife, Vicky, blamed the Ativan that he was on and filed a lawsuit against the doctor that prescribed it to him, but nothing ever happened of it. So how is Chester and Chris connected? Where does this all meet up? Well, Chris and Chester were really good friends. I mean, they were practically family. I mean, when Chester found out about Chris's death, he was a wreck. Honestly, his band members, his family, they just all said that he wasn't handling it very well, which I don't think any of us would, that's a hard loss. So here's kind of where the conspiracy theory comes into play. Now again, it's just a theory. I'm not saying any of these are facts. So you remember when I said that Chris Cornell and his wife started a foundation to help abused or neglected children? Well, the theory is that Chester Bennington was also involved in this foundation and was helping Chris and Vicky crack down on people. Well, this is when a man named John Podesta comes into play. So who is John Podesta? He's known for being Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman for the 2016 presidential election. Now, if you followed that election and you followed the news, then you would know that there were tons of emails released to the public. Well, some of those emails were released from John's account, and people started to notice hey, these seem a little bit weird to me. They contained strange codes with food names. So people think that the emails were about some sort of government child sex trafficking ring, and each food was a code for something, pizza equals girl and hot dog equals boy, or pasta equals young boy. You get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. So of course rumors start flying around about this John Podesta guy. They see pictures of him and then they put it next to Chester's picture, and they look very, very similar. Some people think that John Podesta is Chester Bennington's biological father. Again, I'm not saying that's true. I don't know, but that's just what people think. And it's kind of hard to deny because they do look so similar. It's insane how similar they look. So how do Chester and John know each other? How did their paths cross? Well, the band members from Linkin Park started a charity called Music for Relief. They ended up starting a recycling program for the people of Haiti because they were hit by a really bad earthquake in 2010. and they just needed resources. Well, the band somehow started losing money on it. They weren't getting any more money. Like, they were kind of just struggling a little bit. Well, guess who ended up coming to the rescue on this? The Clinton Foundation. They offered a really large donation to the charity to help them out. And who was behind the Clinton Foundation? John Podesta. So that is how Chester and John's path crossed. And then some people believe that this is when Chester found out that John was like his biological dad or something. I don't know. I don't think I believe it. They do look very similar. But I mean, again, just a conspiracy theory. Let me do my lips really quick so I can focus. So this is what people think, and it's your choice if you want to believe it or not. But people believe that Chester found out that John Podesta was his biological father. And once those emails surfaced, he learned that, hey, this is probably a sex trafficking ring for children. Chris, me and you need to do something about this. So people strongly believe that they were working really hard together and they were about to expose so many like important high up people being in this sex trafficking ring. Like they were so close to nailing people. Well, because they were going to nail someone that was so high up in government that their deaths were made to look like suicide, but they were actually murdered. It's really far-fetched, honestly. So I'm going to give my opinions on this. I think both of these men suffered very heavily from depression and substance abuse. There's no doubt about that. I think Chester Bennington was very deep in his depression. Most people say like, oh, he was so happy though. He was laughing just 36 hours before his death. He was having such a good time. Well, when you're in depression, sometimes like your final moments is your happiest. It's weird. It's weird how it works, but that's just kind of how it is. I believe Chester Bennington did commit suicide. It's really sad, but I really do think he did. Chris Cornell, on the other end, I don't know, because the more I was reading into his side of the story, the more things just didn't seem to add up. In the police call, you can hear the worker of the hotel saying that there's people in the room right now trying to get Chris down because he was hanging. They're trying to get him down so they can perform CPR. But when the bodyguard walked in there, he said that he saw Chris already laying on the floor. So how is that? Like, is it just a miscommunication somewhere? I don't know. Another thing is his wife strongly believed that Chris would not intentionally take his own life. She like fights tooth and nail to this, which I don't blame her. And it's not just her, it's also other people in the music industry that knew Chris Cornell. Even they have stated that there's no way he committed suicide. There's just no way. And I know sometimes, you hear of a death and it's like shocking, you really don't believe it. But once you kind of go back and reliving memories that you had with them or things that they would say or do, you kind of put the pieces together like the signs were all there and nobody ever saw it. But with Chris, they weren't there. They were there with Chester, his wife and his family and his friends. They all said those signs were there. It was just too late for them to act on them, which is awful. There's just a lot of loopholes in Chris's side. The fact that his wife called the bodyguard to go check on him. It wasn't until 40 minutes later that the bodyguard called somebody to get someone up there to help him. Like, there's just so many loopholes. It just doesn't make any sense. So let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. Do you think that they did commit suicide? Do you think it's a possibility? It could have been a setup? What do you think? I think with Chester, it was definitely suicide, but with Chris Cornell, I do question it a little bit. I don't necessarily think that he was murdered by like the government or anything like that, but I do think that something may have been going on there. The fact that the security guards from the hotel wouldn't let the bodyguard into the room, like they refused to help him. Why would they refuse? And the strange thing is that when they went back over their surveillance footage, they didn't see anyone going in or out of Chris's room once the bodyguard left. from then until the time he came back, there was nobody going in or out. So could it have been the bodyguard? Could the tapes have been tampered with to make it look like nobody went in or out? I don't know. Anyways, that is the theory of Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell. Let me know what you guys think down below. I would love to hear your opinions on this. Please do not hate me for doing this story. It was really interesting to me. I know it's like really far-fetched, but I still wanted to do it anyways and just get your guys' opinions. Again, I mean no disrespect or anything to the families or to Chris and Chester at all. I understand depression and I understand what it can do to somebody, so like I get it. And I would not sit here and badmouth them in any sort of way. So, but anyways, I'm going to stop flapping my gums over here. So if you like the story and you like these type of videos, then don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, follow me on all my socials. Those will be linked in the description box. And everything that I used today will always be in the description box as well. So if you're ever curious, that's where it is. And I have nothing else to say except I love you guys and I will see you in the next one. Bye!